Hi! Yes, it's me again, and I'm a student now in psychology. I'm studying part time. It's a grad dip psych. Um, if I can get through this by the end of 2028, I know it sounds like a long time, doesn't it? But it is part time. Then I'll go on to do honours, and I've already got a project in mind. Um, and hopefully, I'll get a lot of knowledge along the way that helps me to define that project. Uh, But that would be 2029. And then starting a master's in clinical psychology. Ooh la la, that's 2030. How old am I going to be? Oh my god. If I'm 54 now and it's 26, another 4 years, I'm going to be 58. Okay, that's okay. Career change, maybe. Or I'll just take it as far as I need to. I might not end up, you know, pursuing a full master's in clinical psychology. I might end up using whatever quals I get along the way to sort of buttress both research based and maybe to up taking other roles, sliding into something else. Because I work as a peer support worker. I'm also a social researcher. I'm really committed to migrant realities and doing research that is participatory and helps to achieve forms of social justice and redress in the area of health, chronic illness, mental health. Yes. So, um, all I can say is it's never too late. I've never looked at my life as that there's some kind of expiry date as to when you can still use your brain and still use your faculties. Obviously, the body does get older, right? And I feel it. Today I had a migraine. Well, it wasn't actually a migraine. It's like inflamed sinuses and it creates achiness. And yeah, I had 3 hours of back to back lectures. The first one on neuroscience, the third of a series. I missed the first two because I'm a late enrollee. And the second two were psychometrics, and I'd missed one of them earlier in the week. So both units have 3 hours of lectures, and I believe, if I'm not wrong, 1 or 2 hours of tutorials. But in any case, it seems that now I have access to the Canvas sites and shortly, hopefully, to the recorded lectures, that I'll be able to apportion some of that outside of my working hours and just, go to the absolutely essential tutorials for the development of the coursework and application of what we learn in the lectures as well, and any assessments that we do, group or individual. So there's a lot going on, and it's a bit daunting, but I tend to thrive on study. At the same time, I also have to keep producing my own research initiatives within my discipline, and it's not going to be divorced from the way I develop in this professional way in another direction. I believe they're my thoughts on that matter. Uh, but yeah, it's quite a long road if you think about it. I mean, I might be 62 by the time I'm qualifying, well, 63 qualifying clinical psychologist if we're going to go that way. Health permitting. Um, I think my mum was involved in aged care, right into her 60s. And while she wasn't an RN and she was not an EN, she was floor staff and she was activities coordinator. It's never too late to change career tack. And God willing, I believe I have a sort of new direction in life, a new sort of paths, especially, because one of the most transformative things for me is that opening up to myself, through transition. And it's just allowing me to be present in new ways. And yeah, just to show up. You don't lose your brain from transition, I have to say. Um, I remember when I was growing up, family would say, you know, they're so smart, they could end up being a rocket scientist. And that was just a really working class way of trying to get at this kind of outlier that I represented. And, you know, that sort of studious nature, being interested in virtually everything, maybe a form of neurodivergence, but it wasn't disconnected from the other outlier elements of me, and not fitting in, especially with the boys. I talked about this in the last video. But so I think that even though I get tighter than I used to when I was younger, I'm a much more emotionally centered person since transition, and you know, the wise mind and emotional regulation are getting more integrated these days, which is really good news, and so it bodes well. The only other thing I would say is I just want to keep up my creative writing as well, and so like there's all these swirling things going on in my life, you know, as an academic, as a new postgraduate student in a new discipline in science, and then also still trying to keep up my fiction writing and my poetry. You know, like I've always done things that way. I've always had 1,000 things going on, and they may or may not lead in one way or another to another thing, but study has always kept me on track, let's just say, and brought some clearer outcomes. Creative work is harder to break through with, and I've made some good runs lately um, on the board, but yeah, it's the long haul, and in a way, it's nice to be able to switch between the modes. And kind of what I do in fiction, at least, is kind of a bit of a mediation between what I'm interested in the psychology of personalities, obviously in developing characters, and thinking through the social determinants of mental health as well. You know, that brings me back to my other research, and the things that I want to bring to the world, that I want to foment, and it keeps me very busy. Yeah, you might think I don't get a moment's rest. I only really take that moment when I make a video. That's right. So Monday we have another film class. I've just been rewatching the film that we're going to be talking about. That's my teaching staff, and we also have week 2 of Experiences of Multicultural Australia, and we'll be talking about multiculturalism and transnational identities, as well as multicultural days in schools and multicultural education otherwise. The conference, I'm still pushing ahead with Collective Life and Reexistencia in Abya Yala, Iberia, and the diasporas of both parts of our world that connect us in spite of, and maybe in the face of, the new war order. So really committed to that as well. I've got to finish some research articles, I've got to edit one, I've got to keep working on my journal, you know, like as editor, to finish some things out. I just go to bed early, so I prime for bed, and then get up early and apportion the different tasks that I'm able to do at those different parts of the day, and then move on to others. That's the best way to be organised in the midst of chaos. Yes. And keeping your eyes on all the dates and all that kind of thing. And somehow it ends up happening. Even if half of it happens, it's good enough. Yeah, so that's my message. I hope you enjoy following my videos and my journey, which is more than transition. It is in new paths of professional development and creative life, and also political life, collective life. So, and it goes far beyond trans politics, although I do work a little bit on that in terms of trans organising in the Global South, and I teach in social movements in the Global South, and a lot of things that just kind of keep me revving and keep me going and keep me interested. I'm never bored, let me tell you that. But I also do like watching sci-fi and just like chilling with friends and stuff like that. So yeah, I often think, I hope reincarnation is real, because I've got so much more to do even beyond this life. What about you? If only we have the fortune, right? Yeah, but do good in this life right now. regardless of what comes after.